long, long road, but we can get through it all. Turning point, recovery. Turning point, yeah.
Good evening. My name is John.
My name's Jeff, and we got Scotty back tonight.
Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Awesome, man. It's great to have you and be with you tonight. Thanks for covering me a few weeks ago. I caught a cold, and Scotty filled in last minute. Really grateful to have you on the show again, and we hope that you continue to return.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Welcome to Navigating Your Turning Point, a podcast about recovery, where we embrace multiple paths to recovery.
Because there's no wrong way to recover.
As we embrace today's recovery environment, we're having a discussion tonight. We're going to start with a series of episodes where we highlight some of the existing partnerships with Turning Point, or we begin to start new relationships and partnerships as navigate and evolve during this podcast journey. Let's introduce our guests of MOAR, which stands for Massachusetts Organization of Addiction Recovery. Later, we'll be talking to regional coordinators, Noble Noel, and also Nice Nico. We'll get to know our guests a little bit, ask them about their stories and where they come from. So I guess the first question is, what is MOAR? Who wants to describe the vision and mission statement?
Well, I guess since I'm the guest here, I will. MOAR's mission is to organize recovering individuals, families, and friends into a collective voice to educate the public about the value of recovery from alcohol and other addictions. And we envision a society where addiction is treated as a significant public health issue and recovery is seen as valuable to all our communities.
I mean, that's a really big approach, right? We're talking about community recovery here, right? Because some folks, they need help. They can't just do it on their own. They need the community around them, and they need the community to believe in them. Is that being part of the mission statement? Like, can you elaborate a little bit more? Like, how does that exactly work a little bit?
It's been done. It can be done in many ways, and one of the ways is really being out there and being a person. Like, I'm a person in long-term addiction recovery, mental health recovery, and trauma recovery, and I openly share about that. And by being open about my story, about my experiences, it decreases stigma, or what I like to call discrimination. And so by getting conversations about recovery, and people can, see people recovering and living a meaningful life, and it become as a thing, an asset to the community, opposed to seeing addiction as a detriment.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of a bad stigma out there that, the recovery community isn't productive at work, isn't this or isn't that, isn't good with their family and stuff like that, but they're trying to fix themselves. That can only benefit society and a community. I'm glad that MOAR's here today to talk a little bit about that. We're going to get to meet Noble Noel, Nice Nico.
Yes, they're awesome guys.
Noel, nice. Can you share a little bit about the relationship that MOAR has with Turning Point today, a little bit, and how that exactly is coexisting?
Well, MOAR has been advocating for years to fund peer recovery support centers, because we know peer support works, and I don't care what line of work you're in. It's good to have somebody who has lived experience and has successful experiences. I don't care if you're a chef, you want to learn from other chefs. So if you want to learn about recovery, it's good to be able to have people who are successfully navigating their recovery. So MOAR has been advocating for peer recovery centers to be funded across the state. And right now, Turning Point has been open for, I guess we're coming up on 4 years. And so we've been working hand to hand together to be able to support one another's mission. And we have events in the community, and we work together. And now we are actually under the same fiscal agent of Bay State Community Services.
Awesome.
We joined Bay State in October of 2021. So MOAR is now officially and with Turning Point Recovery Center. But up until then, we were supporting their efforts in getting off the ground
Nice.
and organizing, speaking out for addiction recovery seminars and boot camps and training and bringing the recovery community together. And also, Turning Point participates in MOAR's Recovery Day, along with other activities like the Metro West Action for Recovery, which is the second Tuesday of every month on Zoom at 2 o'clock. So please join us. And so we do the activities together, and we really have created a wonderful connection and support.
Excellent. So if people are just starting out in recovery, they can get a hold of MOAR at www.more-recovery.org. Is there, I'm sure there's a phone number on it, 617-423-6627. That's an available support line, or is that just for MOAR?
In fact, if you call and leave a message, Marianne, our fearless leader, Marianne Frangulis, will check the message. She'll inevitably send me an email. Hey, can you call this person? Because this is part of my job. I often respond to that call, and because I love connecting with people in the recovery community. And so we would love you to call us, check us out on our website. We have a fantastic resource guide, and I am confident Noble Noel and Nice Nico can share even more stuff about the things we do at MOAR, because they're both experienced workers in the recovery community, and so I can't wait to bring them on. I bet you guys can't wait to hear what they have to say.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you for the foundation of, defining MOAR and, what it does, its mission and vision. Now let's get to the nuts and bolts by the people that make it happen on a day-to-day basis, and that would be Nico and Noel.
Nice. All right, so it's time to introduce our guests from MOAR. We had Scotty on who kind of positioned it and talked a little bit about Turning Point. And now, tonight we have Nice Nico, is that the nickname?
That is the nickname. It was kindly given to me by Sunshine Scotty, so it's going to stay.
It's going to stay. All right. Regional Coordinator is your title?
Western Mass Regional Coordinator.
Fantastic. And then we also have Noble Noel,
Yes.
Regional Coordinator as well from MOAR.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
And just like Nico said, it's a positive affirmation name, Noble Noel. And I am the Southeast Regional Coordinator for MOAR, which means I cover from Quincy to Cape Cod and the islands.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what we want to do tonight is just talk a little bit about you guys, what got you into MOAR, what it's all about for you, and kind of where things are heading next for you with MOAR and stuff like that. How's that sound?
Sounds beautiful.
All right. Let's get into it. Let's get to know you guys a little bit better. Can you share just a little bit about yourself, Nico, and what brought you to MOAR and kind of what your journey's like?
Yeah. So I never thought that I'd be working at MOAR. My journey started off as well as, I thought that the life that I was living had to change. And I went into recovery, gracefully, since December 24, 2015, I've been in recovery. And I haven't stopped ever since. So living the life that I did, not knowing the potentials that I had, I've always stood stuck in the same and not in this routine of getting up, doing what I needed to do to just get through the day. And when my recovery started, I knew that I had to take an action step. Like, what did that mean? That I had to attack my recovery like I did when I was in active addiction. And that meant every day working at this and getting in contact. And what I found out that the opposite of this disease of addiction is connection. So I've always stood connected with individuals in that community, and it's kept me safe. And as to how I got to know MOAR, be honest with you, I never heard of MOAR until I was part of the Massachusetts Recovery Coach Commission. And how I came to be with that was men and women from my work, they said, well, look, who's interested in being that? And of course, there was like 5 of us putting up our hands. But they took a vote and they picked me to go out there. And when I went there, it was amazing, but also frightening. Because here I go over to Boston. I go to this tall building across the street from the Capitol building over there, and it's a beautiful building, and we're up on the 25th floor. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, right? So they said, we got to swear you in. And I'm like, what does that mean? Right? Like, swear me in. And this cool guy with his cool, he looked to fly. He was dressed down beautifully. And he says, come to this room. And so I'm up on the 25th floor, and you can see the Charles River, right? And he's swearing me in to be part of the Recovery Coach Commission. And everything flashed before my eyes. I never thought that in my recovery, in my years of being active in addiction, that I'd be at a point where I'm serving the community, more people of my state. And I met somebody there, Kind Kim, right? When I met her, for some reason, we knew each other since forever. I never met this woman in my life, but we connected, and that's when I heard about MOAR. And when I looked around the room, I felt less uncomfortable because Janet Hernandez was there. And he was the teacher for my LADAC class, which was perfect. And that's how I got to know about MOAR. And never have I thought that I'd want to be working in that. But as I watched him in the community, and again, I'm gonna give my boy Sunshine Scotty the most that he deserves. Every time I kept seeing him, the energy that he put out, the conviction about recognizing this as a public health issue. And also, when I heard individuals from recovery speak, or from MOAR speak, I recognized that they came from within their hearts about what they believed.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's a great story.
It is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations on almost like you went to this tall building and got knighted almost like that, you know?
It felt like
You know
that,
what I mean?
but at the same time, I felt like I was going to get punked. Like Ashton Kutcher was going to be like, we got you. But it was a beautiful time.
Fantastic. We'll pass it over to Noel now. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to MOAR and how your journey went.
You know, just like Nico said, I never heard of MOAR before. I have first and foremost, I have over 20 years in recovery. And I was in construction and I started getting a lot of injuries. And because of those injuries, I needed to find a new line of work. And I was really worried about this because, I was, getting later stages in my life, and I'm like, how am I going to start doing something new? And so, you sit down with your spouse and you talk these things through, and my wife looked at me and she said, you need a job doing what you do best. And I was kind of quizzical, and I looked at her, I was like, what is that? And she said, talk. And I was like, what? At first I was a little insulted,
Because you talk too much.
Well, yeah, so I was just like, whoa. Well, I used to go home and tell my wife about the conversations that I would have with some of the guys on site. Some of the guys talking and, about what we would talk about. And I'd share with my wife these stories and then I'd share my responses. So, in essence, she knew me better than I did. So I began working with troubled teens. And of course, in everything that you do, you always try to, do better. In your career, you always try to better yourself. And the director at that point said to me, Noel, you should go to school. And of course, I'm looking at him going, after 20 years, you want me to go back to school? But I did. I started going back to school, and I really enjoyed learning about psychology. I really, learned about human behavior. And somebody told me about working with adults in addiction. And I went from working with teenage, adolescent kids to working with adults in addiction. Mind you, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and being thrusted back into that atmosphere, it was kind of weird for me. It was like, this is something I escaped from, something I got away from, something I survived. And now I feel like I'm being thrusted right back into the throes of this. In one of the organizations that I was working for in Roxbury in Boston, one of the stipulations was you have to build a connection with MOAR. And I was like, MOAR? So what's this MOAR? So I called the phone number, and of course, Marianne Frangoulis, the founder of MOAR, picks up the phone, and she's like, she's got a rhyme for everything that she says, and she was like, yeah, Noel, we can get you involved. And so she told me about one of the events they were having, and I came, and so I started participating, and I started realizing what is it that MOAR was doing, and I was impacted. I really was impacted because I'm sitting here looking at this. At this point, she was probably like 70-something years old. And I'm looking at this woman who has so much energy and so much fire for impacting and changing lives. you know, when you rub elbows with somebody like that, you know, you can't help but catch some of that fire. And I said, you know, I want to do that. I want to be able to impact and change lives. And I kept working where I was working. There was some relationships just continued to build with Marianne. And one day she called me up on a Sunday. I'm sitting at home and she called me up or sent me an email on a Sunday night. And I'm looking at my emails. I'm like, the CEO. I'm looking at my wife like, babe, look, the CEO's emailing me. You know, like, hey, Noel. And she invited me to MC an event. And I'm sitting there going, I was like a little schoolboy. She's inviting me, of all people. This woman knows thousands of people, and she reached out to me. That spoke volumes to me. And of course I accepted, you know, and I told her I would be honored to MC this event. And sure as shooting, I MC'd the event. It was a blast. I shared a little bit about my story. I got people riled up. We all got excited, and we went on this march. And the march led us to Faneuil Hall, where there were hundreds of people in recovery, celebrating Recovery Day. And I was sitting there enthralled, but also like, wow, this is what MOAR is. MOAR's community. And Nico, you mentioned it, you know, the opposite of addiction is connection. And here we have these hundreds of people connected under one solace idea. And Scotty mentioned it, that recovery is real and the recovery can happen. And then what you can do to get involved, to make change and to become a change agent. It didn't take but 6 months later for me to say, hey, Marianne, I saw that there's a job opening. I want to join MOAR. Because not only did I see that for the community that was there, but then I was thinking about my people, the Latino community, you know, and the people that are impacted by the inequities, and what I can do to bring that to the forefront. What I can do as a person of color, as a Latino man, a Taino, you know, to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm with an organization that wants to impact change in everyone, not just one people, but all people. So that's kind of what brought me to MOAR, you know.
How long ago was that?
This year will be 4 years.
4 years.
This year will be 4 years, yeah.
And how long ago was it for you when you started?
Well, I don't got 4 years. You know, I've only been around for 4 months, but I've been working with MOAR for practically 5 years, since 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, same here, because it's 5 years with me since I did that the rally, and I was the MC of the rally, and now I'm literally like the MC for every event for MOAR now.
Everything, for everything.
And I can see why. Listening to you, Noel, I can see why.
Yeah, I can listen to it for hours.
Yeah. Question, one of the things, community, Turning Point, one of the things on our agenda for 2023, there's a big focus on outreach and how we want to partner with organizations like MOAR and other places around us. There's another company that just opened up right in our town, and sometimes they provide a certain service and maybe we can dovetail and provide aftercare. Now, something you're probably not aware, but yesterday, every Tuesday, we have a community meeting at Turning Point, and we had it at noon yesterday. Excuse me. And Kind Kim zoomed in, and she talked about Areas, A-R-E-A-S. And Sunshine Scotty just happened to inform me that that is an area of your expertise. Okay. And she presented it to us, and fundamentally, as I understand it, it's a 12-unit module, and you don't have to attend all of them. Each one is standalone, so you can maybe go to 1, 2, or 4. And it would start with somebody from MOAR, a trained facilitator, would come in and run the meeting at Turning Point, and in turn train somebody at Turning Point to be a facilitator, so that somewhere down the road somebody at Turning Point could run it on their own and perhaps train other people within the Turning Point family to be facilitators. So it kind of self-perpetuates, and that's a direction we want to go. Maybe if you could talk a little bit, it really caught my interest when she mentioned it, and we're going to take a little vote on it, and we're talking about maybe we can do something in early May. So tell us a little bit about Arius, if you would know.
I'm glad you asked about that. I shy away from saying that I'm an expert at it, but I truly enjoy doing the Arius curriculum. Arius, of course, is an acronym: Addiction, Recovery, Education, Access Services. In this curriculum is peer-led. Because we are individuals in recovery as well. But then it's also giving the autonomy to the peers in the room to say, which topic do you want to, start with, or which topic do you feel, you guys want to talk about, and why it's important. There are different topics, but when you talk about healthy relationships, okay, in active addiction, we have a bad habit of picking up different characteristics, picking up different behaviors, picking up different relationships with people. And also part of those characteristics is being able to understand how we can get over, how we can take advantage. So when you talk about, like, one of the topics, healthy relationships, it's learning how a positive relationship, what a positive relationship looks like, as opposed to somebody who's going to help us with those negative behaviors. So we ask, and it's peer-led, and of course it's adult learning theory. So we're asking you questions, you who attend these meetings. What do you think a positive relationship looks like? What do you look for in a positive relationship? What are some of the characteristics? And then of course asking people to reflect on the negative characteristics. So that's just one of the topics, healthy relationships, which is a major topic that a lot of the peers like to really work on because of those characteristics we pick up being out in the community, out in the streets, actively, using, doing all those things. So it's being able to work through that, kind of refreshing your mind, your heart, your attitude, your character. Family addiction and recovery. How to rebuild those relationships. What does it look like to have someone struggle with addiction in a family? Some of the roles that you tend to want to pick up when families are struggling like this. You have individuals that have the hero mentality. They want to fix it all, or they're going to do really well to kind of take away the shadow off, to lift the shadow of addiction off of everybody's focus on this one. Let's focus on the hero, the one that's doing really well. Then you have the mascot. The mascot's an individual who will make light of everything, make jokes at everything. And in some areas, being a mascot's good because you may alleviate the tension in a room, but then some mascots don't know when to perform and when not to perform, and how it could cause a negative effect. Then that's just two of the topics. So then we talk about also leadership in recovery, mental health and wellness in recovery, spirituality in recovery, multiple pathways in recovery. So we cover a gambit of different topics that the peers can choose from. And any one of those topics, one of them may last 1 week, another topic like healthy relationships may last a month. We talk about harm reduction, we talk about relapse prevention. So there's a conglomeration of different topics to choose from in the areas, which they actually uplift, encourage, leave people thinking, and so when people leave the group, they kind of leave like, wow, I had one today. I facilitate in areas in Brockton at Stairway to Recovery in Brockton, and there was 25 people in the room, and they were like, that meeting was awesome. I can't wait to go back. And what was the topipic? Healthy relationships. So areas gives individuals in recovery an opportunity to, it's almost like a refresher, a restart, Let's learn about, learn about yourself. There's no better way to start than looking at the person in the mirror.
That's fantastic.
And Jeff, to me, when I first heard about it yesterday, the fact that it is peer-driven and peer-centered, and multiple paths to
Yeah.
recovery. To me, that is everything the Turning Point is all about. How
Absolutely.
do you feel about that?
No, I think it's perfect. I think that's the community-based recovery is what I've been leaning into most.
Yep.
I've definitely taken lots of facets over the past few years as I've kind of started my journey in different ways. And I've always kind of leaned into that kind of step where it's multiple pathways, because you can bring in a lot of tools into the toolbox that way, from folks that you're either learning from, the classes that you're going to, or just some of the counselors and leaders that are teaching you something. I'm learning right now. I didn't even know anything about it, so it's fantastic. I think, do we have any more to talk on areas? Anything else that you wanted to add at all?
Well, one of the things is it's like those 3 V's: be visual, vocal, and valuable, right? Everybody that's in those groups becomes visual, becomes vocal, right? And also becomes valuable, because a lot of times, I can reflect back when I was in young recovery, in my early recovery, I didn't think I was valuable. I didn't think anything that I had to say was valuable. But when I was around a group of men and women who were just like me in different stages of recovery, what I had to say had some importance. And what I did not know about, I could listen to it from an individual who's just like me. So that peer participatory model is perfect, because it's, Noel is facilitating the group, but doesn't make Noel the expert. Because in that gambit of role, we're all the same. We're all there to learn from each other. And like many of the places I go to, or anything that I do, I end up leaving enriched because of what I've learned from others. So it's a beautiful model.
That's fantastic. As folks are, we kind of gear this podcast a little bit to the early stages. Not that we have a target audience or anything of that nature. We want anybody to feel welcome to listen, of course. But I think it's really important to get that across to the people who are starting to listen to recovery on either whatever channel they're listening to it or whatever platform they're on, and they're just starting to peek their head in. They're trying to get help. They're trying to make a change. How, from your standpoint, how does someone get involved with MOAR in that beginning stage when they start to hear about MOAR, or maybe they see this podcast for the first time, or something comes up? Any recommendations for them to how they can get involved in programs like that?
When I think about how someone can get involved, I was at a recovery center this morning at 10 o'clock, and I did an intro to MOAR. And I shared to a group of, I think it was like 27 people in the room. And after I was done introducing MOAR to them, sharing with them everything that we have to offer, I asked them, do you want to become a member? And then I introduced them to the idea of becoming a recovery champion. We can sit around and say, my voice doesn't matter, or we can do like Nico said and start to recognize when you're in recovery, recovery is real, recovery can happen. But one thing I share with individuals is who you hang with is who you become. You hang around a criminal long enough, if you hang around somebody who likes to steal, sooner or later, you're going to be stealing with them. If you hang around somebody who, likes to cause trouble, sooner or later, you're going to be right there with them causing trouble. When I was 13 years old, my grandmother said to me, and I'll wrap up with this. My grandmother said to me, who you hang with is who you become. And then she said to me, tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. At 13, I looked at her and I laughed and I said, she don't know what she's talking about. At 51, I utter those words to everyone I speak to. Who you hang with is who you become. You hang around with somebody who's still actively using, sooner or later, you're gonna be actively using with them. You hang around somebody that's liking to drink, sooner or later, you're gonna be drinking with them. Successful people hang out with successful people. To be successful, you need to hang around, Nico, you said it. Someone who's been successful, you learn from them, you hear from them. And then what happens is we become like vessels instead of a container. A container, you pour it in, you cover it up, and you put it in the fridge or you put it on the shelf. A vessel, you pour into, but you pour out what's poured into you. We learn We listen, we share. You want to get involved? Hang with somebody successful, hang with somebody who's doing it and being successful, and you will have success in your recovery as well.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could listen to you for hours, Noel.
I'm telling you,
Unfortunately,
don't
we
stop,
do,
man. Don't
we,
stop.
We,
Keep going.
we do have a time limit here.
Yes, we do.
So as we get towards the end,
We always kind of ask a final
we always
question.
kind of ask, yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah,
Hit the gentleman with the final question.
So our final question is, it comes from the heart, or at least we hope it does, and we just want to make sure that the folks know about you, we know about you, and could you share something with us that maybe you haven't either shared in a while, maybe haven't shared at all in a meeting, that you maybe even want to get off your chest? It really could be on any topic or anything. But really just something about yourself that could provide inspiration to those out there listening.
You want to go?
You know
first,
what?
huh?
Yeah, because you've been going at it. Let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
get some of this.
Yeah.
So one thing that I can be very honest about, and I'm going to say this, I suffer from deep anxiety. Right now, I want to jump out of this chair and leave. But I have learned, seriously, this is all the time. Even when I'm driving, I'm like, everybody's going so slow. I need to do 100. But I'm learning, right? I'm learning to live with that. Because those feelings before used to make me go run out and use. Holidays, I just recently watched the one of the podcasts you guys did about the holidays. I just recently started enjoying holidays for what they are. I always felt that I needed to be on something to be around people. Either I wasn't funny enough, I didn't tell the best stories, I had no story to tell, so I had to lie. And lying was my best friend, Since I've been in recovery, I once said that I went 4 years without telling a lie until the telemarketer called me, right? And check this out. And I was with, because this is the truth, I was in the car with the recovery talking about how I don't lie anymore, it's how I live. And then I pick it up with a telemarketer. Usually I give them the time of day because they called, but this one has called like 50 times. And I already know that I didn't want nothing to do with that, but I was, and she says, hey, is this such and such? I said, no, you got the wrong number. Click. And I was like, no, I just lied, right? And the reason why I say that, it's hilarious to you, but to me, it's traumatizing.
I hear that.
Because one lie for me, I'm on a roll.
Right.
So I recognize those things and I work at them. And why I'm talking about the anxiety, because, so I've been in recovery since December 24, 2015. Doesn't mean that I'm fully recovered. I'm still dealing with things. I'm still dealing with new things. What I've learned about my anxiety, that it exists.
Yep.
It is there. Do I let that stop me from making the next move? Do I confront it and meet head on with it? Of course I do. One thing is that in my recovery, and as many other people in recovery, I do not come alone in my life. I have my moms behind me. I have my children, like you discussed about your kids, and congratulations on sharing cupcakes and all that beautiful stuff. But, so I carry those individuals everywhere I go. When I speak, when I'm seen, people see me. They don't see the person I used to be. They see the man that I am today. So by confronting my anxiety, knowing that I can get through that, I can make it to the other side. And if I can't, for some reason, I have people in which I call. I've called Scotty, when I've had a bad moment. And I realize it's just bad moments that I can get through this. And by connecting with individuals who are like-minded, or that may be in a better spot than me at the time. And it doesn't mean that I call somebody with 20 years clean. It could be somebody I know that's on the right topic at 3 months clean, and because anybody has value in their story. I just need to get through the moment. And that's how I've been living my day every day since I started this recovery journey.
Awesome. If I could provide a lighthearted tip before we pass it to Noel.
Bring it.
All right. Just so, because you got that off your chest about the telemarketing and breaking that and everything, being in sales and on the phones a lot and doing presentations, I'll say this, for folks out there listening moving forward, all you have to say is, I'm not interested, can you please remove me from the list?
That is a lie. They still keep calling. We're
That is
talking
a lie.
about recovery, man. We got to break those habits of sitting.
But that's being honest, you may not be interested.
Oh, an honest lie. I love those.
I won't even say it, but it's kind of like a half lie. You know what I mean?
Right. I used to practice.
Is that
those.
like
glad
a
you
little
shared
bit
it.
pregnant?
I know, right? That's for a different episode. But anyways, I just wanted to just make a little lighthearted joke on that because you got it off your chest and we appreciate it. So
No
thank you,
problem.
man.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, and I'm sure it didn't spiral. So I'm sure you're good now.
No, I'm really good. I don't want to be caught out there again.
All right, Noel, we'll pass it over to you. Tell us something about yourself that you haven't shared either in a while or shared about at all in maybe a meeting or some sort of inspiration you want to leave us with tonight.
Ultimately, I've said a lot, I've talked a lot, but I want to leave you with this. In my mind, in my mantra, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
If you want recovery, you got to want recovery just as much as you want to take your next breath. You struggle and fight for it. And I heard a story about a man who wanted to be successful. So he told his mentor, I want to be successful. His mentor brought him to the beach. And he said, go out into the water to your ankles. He got there. He said, okay, go out to your knees. He got there. Go out to your hips. He got there. Go up to your neck. He got there. He said, go a little further. And the guy started struggling, started fighting to stay above water. And he swam back in a little bit and was like, what are you doing? And he said, what did you want the most when that started to happen? He said, I wanted to breathe. He said, so if you want to be successful, you got to want it just as bad as you want to take that next breath. You want to be successful in your recovery, you got to struggle and fight for every day, for every minute, for every hour. Success is there, but you got to fight for it.
That's fantastic.
That was deep.
That was awesome.
It's very deep.
As a swimmer, I just wanted him to swim, you know. But I mean, I see the analogy. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about. You know, this was a great episode. Would you?
And you know what? As an alcoholic, I remind myself that I cannot live on yesterday's sobriety today.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have to work at it every single day. Recovery is a process. It's going to be there till the day that I die, and if I want it bad enough. And one little saying I remember from Turning Point, again, community, that when an individual heals, the family heals, and eventually the community heals.
That's right.
We really appreciate you guys being on tonight. I think this is starting kind of a relationship series on our podcast. We haven't had other organizations on yet. You're our first, and we really appreciate the partnership that Turning Point has with MOAR. We're hoping to help that flourish in this year and in the coming years. And then in the future, we welcome you guys back anytime, or any other folks from your organization. Absolutely. So
You can't bring Noel. He talks too much.
yeah,
I love you, man.
that was awesome. It was a perfect amount.
Nothing changes. Nothing changes. That's right.
That's right.
It was a perfect amount. So
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your insight. Really appreciate you being here. And maybe we can do this again somewhere down the road.
absolutely.
Thank you.
You have
for
any
having
idea
us.
what's up next, partner?
We're starting a relationship series, so we're kind of bringing in guests over the next few episodes, I think, on the partnerships we're either forming, some of the new types of meetings that are coming up with Turning Point, what's fresh, and what's going on for the summer months coming up. We have a lot of new activities at Turning Point that are coming up. This is when we kick off kind of new things this time of the year, when people can get outdoors. It's better weather and things are happening. So
Looking forward to
we'll
that.
have to be bringing more into it as well, into the fold. So looking forward to it. So we're going to leave on that note tonight. Any other final thoughts from you?
No, I mean, Sunshine Scotty's tagline is "Recovery is real," and I'll leave with mine, which is "It feels good to feel good."
Absolutely.
Good night.
We can get through it all. Turning point, recovery. Turning point, yeah.